mean, I guess since Holtz isn't here, I have to do the dirty work and call out the icky cats this time.
It's the PokerNews Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 882nd episode of the PokerNews Podcast. I am Chad Holloway, joined by Kyna England and Connor Richards at Level 9 Studio, filling in for Mike Holtz, who was playing a tournament, but he actually busted like minutes ago. But we said, sorry, Connor's already here. Connor, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, and sorry, Mike, you got to bust sooner next time.
And happy birthday, Kyna. We're going to get into that here in a second, but before we do, I want to let you know what we're going to talk about a little bit on today's show. We're going to talk about Hustler Casino Live, all aspects, including the recently announced $1 million cash game. We're going to talk about should reporters speak up after some controversy on the WSOP circuit. Speaking of which, Ari Engel retook the all-time ring lead. We're going to talk about that. We also got Triton winners. We've also got the mixed game high roller winner, all kinds of stuff. Tom Goldstein update. Let's get into it, starting with Hustler Casino Live. Now, news broke earlier today as we're recording this that the $1 million cash game is going to return. This is one of Hustler Casino Live's biggest things that they've really ever done. They do it yearly, and this year the dates are a little sooner because I believe last year was right before or even during the early part of the World Series of Poker. This year it's going to be April 28th through May 2nd. Connor, what's been the early hubbub about the $1 million cash game?
Well, you mentioned that it's running a little bit sooner. I'm actually really excited about that because I remember last year there were some limits as far as how many people we could send there because the WSOP was just starting. We needed lots of bodies in Vegas and things like that. So I'm actually really excited. Hopefully more of us can get down there. And, you know, last year this was really one of the most exciting events of the year, the biggest cash game pot ever played. It was, you know, over $3 million. It went in Tom Dwan's direction. Lots of big names played last year. One of the big storylines that was that Nik Airball, who's like become one of Hustler's biggest stars, he actually wasn't able to play because of a casino ban that was actually recently lifted, which I think we'll talk about a little bit more. And so we can say here that he will be playing in the upcoming $1 million game. He's a polarizing figure that'll probably make some people happy, others less happy, but it should definitely be good for viewership. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll get into Airball in a minute, but I want to mention that this is a new era, too, of Hustler Casino Live because it was announced about a week back that GG Poker has bought Hustler Casino Live, bought out Nick Vertucci, the infamous, disgraced Nick Vertucci's shares of it. We've talked about Nick Vertucci a little bit on this podcast before about that whole story. How do you feel about GG Poker, buying him out?
I mean, I guess since Holtz isn't here, I have to do the dirty work and call out the icky cats this time. But all that stuff with him leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not going to lie. Like, I used to watch Hustler stream a lot. I really enjoyed it. I like how they had lots of different characters. I like how it was really animated and you got to hear the table talk and it was really fun to watch and follow. It was, really visually stimulating. I liked watching it. But just kind of getting to know who Nick Vertucci was as a person and then seeing him play on that stream all the time, it's so off-putting, man. The guy is a straight slime ball, and I would think this was a lot better and funner, more fun if he didn't just make millions of dollars off of this too. It's you can't participate anymore, but here's a bunch of money instead. Nobody wants to see that. That just makes you feel bad. I don't know. I can't say how I feel, how I will feel about watching Hustler going forward, but I have no desire to watch it right now anymore.
Yeah, we don't know how much the sale was for. That's all, private information. We do know that Nick Vertucci was the co-owner of Hustler Casino Live since it was founded in August 2021 alongside Ryan Feldman, who is still there. He's got an expanded role, in fact, taking over more of those sort of duties. So it's really a one-man show with Ryan Feldman right now in terms of responsibilities. GG Poker is going to let it run as is for a while, and then who knows, maybe start getting input here and there. But right now, it's a new era for Hustler Casino Live, and as we mentioned, Nik Airball is back. He had been banned for over a year, and he's another one of those polarizing figures, for better or worse. Some people love to watch him, some people hate him, and he had his highly publicized heads-up match and loss against Matt Berkey a while back. A very outspoken kind of guy, but in my opinion, he's kind of endeared himself to the poker community a little bit. So what do you guys think?
I I agree on the Nik Airball. Like for some reason, he is who he is. Like he doesn't pretend to be someone else. He doesn't strike me as somebody that comes off as like really fake. Maybe he's like, boasts a lot. Maybe he brags a lot. Who cares? Like that's just who some people are. But I think he's entertaining to watch. He's a character. He's good for the game. Like I would much prefer to watch him than Nick Vertucci. Ick Vertucci. Gross.
Oh, your team Nik Airball, not Nick Vertucci. What about you, Connor? Are you excited to see Airball back in the Hustler Casino live streets?
I am excited to see him back on there, and I agree with what a lot of what Kyna said, but love him or hate him, one thing that I respect about him is he kind of does put his money where his mouth is. So last year he had that huge feud with Matt Berkey. There was actually a hilarious video of like a shoving match between them at Bellagio or something like that. That's still going around on Twitter. But again, he talked a ton of shit in that match. He found himself down more than 1 million, and then he came out with a tweet and kind of like owned it and told Berkey good game and, gave him props and all that. And I don't know the status of their feud exactly, but I've got to respect someone who, can talk all that shit. And then, when they lose, they kind of own up to it. And so, he, as far as recreational players go or trying to draw new people into poker, I think that he is a young, kind of reckless player who will bring a lot of eyeballs. So I just think from a, growing the game perspective, it's good to have him back on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I mentioned, a new era, GG involved. So imagine this. It could be a Nik Airball who's actually playing before the $1 Million Cash Game. He's going to play that as well, but he's making his return debut on March 28th on the Hustler Casino live stream. But imagine this. GG now owns half of Hustler Casino Live, and they've got a stable of pros like a Fedor Holtz or a Daniel Negreanu. In fact, Daniel Negreanu said after this sale was completed, he said, "You rarely see me playing high-stakes poker on streams anymore, but this is going to get me out of retirement and returning to the felt, playing on the most epic cash game stream poker has ever seen. I'm ready to battle." So imagine Daniel Negreanu against Nik Airball, like that. There's some appeal there for me. I think there's some possibilities. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little interesting. I might check it out. I don't know. Like I said, just gotta like feel out the climate of what it's like once GG takes over and see if it's a little, better to watch at that point. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. I've stopped watching.
I know if Hustler Casino Live wants to win you back, Kyna, all they got to get is Vegas Matt. Put Vegas Matt on there, and Kyna England's going to watch.
Get Vegas Matt on the stream for sure. That I would love to see that. I don't know. I just like even before the whole like Nick Vertucci drama, like we didn't like him from the start. I feel like we said stuff like a few months about him before all that came out, and that we were saying, hey, we don't want to watch you play on your own stream. Like your stream is good. We don't want to watch you play. So I mean, at least all that got rectified, and hopefully with the change in ownership, and Ryan Feldman taking the lion's share of the work, like, we'll see some improvements and some fun lineups. I hope so.
Yeah. We will have to wait and see. I know Ryan Feldman just celebrated his 40th birthday. I saw some social media chatter, which was coincidentally, your 40th birthday this week, Kyna, which hence the decorations here at my remote studio and there at Level 9 studio. How does it feel to turn the big 4-0, and are you excited? Any big plans?
I don't know, man. I just feel like leading up to it, it's been like, oh gosh, here we go. But, I guess you are as old as you feel. I don't really feel 40. Well, some days, I don't know. You get that old man groans when you get out of bed sometimes, like again, but like otherwise going about life as usual. We'll see. Hopefully, like my skin doesn't instantly start to sag and wrinkle, and life remains a constant here. So, but yeah, we're gonna go do a dinner party tomorrow, and then maybe some fun weekend shenanigans with the girls. So yeah, low key 40.
That's what you get to look forward to in 10 years, Connor, because you just celebrated your 30th birthday.
Big one.
That's right.
I know.
I feel like we're all decades apart, because also James Hardigan just celebrated his 50th. He was here in Vegas celebrating that. So yeah, lots of birthdays happening, and happy birthday to us all.
Yay.
Happy birthday, Kyna.
Thank you.
Make it a good one. Now, last week we talked, I thought it was kind of fun. We talked about that misread board, or the third place finisher on the WSOP circuit, Baltimore main event, right? He had the winning hand. Nobody noticed. So Maurice Hawkins was awarded the pot, right? That was the big story. Check it out if you haven't already. you remember this kind of was like a day later. Mike Holtz, our co-host, texted us, and I'm going to show a screenshot of this. I don't like to share the private one, but this isn't too bad. Mike tweeted or texted us, he's saying basically like, "Dude, there's no way that just happened. I had a club flush on the river and didn't notice. All in pre, like legit exact same situation, and I didn't notice." And it was just too perfect, right? We just talked about this, like, how does this stuff happen? And then, of course, it happens to Mike.
Yeah, because he was so adamant. He's like, it would never happen to me. I would not, if you play so many years, you would never make a mistake like that. Like, so it was actually quite poetic that it happened to him like one day later.
One big thing that did come out of that whole debacle was this debate on poker Twitter and social media about should reporters speak up? And that's obviously something very near and dear to my heart, Connor's as well. We're live reporters, at least we were primarily, we still dabble in it. But we were always taught, be a fly on the wall, don't say anything. And this really put that into question or in a different light. And you had Matt Savage saying, yes, speak up. You had other people like Sean Deeb saying absolutely not, and everything in between. Before Connor and I offer our thoughts on it kind of from a live reporter's perspective, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it as a player.
I think as a player, like the reporter, like if he sees it, he should say something, but it's not his job to see it either, So like, I think it's a nice to do. I feel like a reporter wouldn't intentionally not say, wouldn't intentionally not like mention it. You know what I mean? I feel like probably in this situation, he didn't see it either until later. And then it's like not his job to go back and be like, hey guys, you made a mistake, So I think it would be a nice thing to do to mention it if it's happening, but it's not the reporter's job to do that at all.
Yeah, Connor, what if that was you? I agree. I don't think the reporter in that scenario, he's actually a good friend of mine. He's worked with Connor and I before. He didn't see it in real time. So it's not like he saw it and intentionally ignored it. So take that out of the equation. The question is, hypothetically, if you saw it, should or would you say anything? Connor, what as a reporter, as a guy I've worked along with in the trenches, what's your take on this?
So I was thinking about it and like, what would I do? And honestly, I think that just like, instinctually, I would say something like you would hear me mutter like, whoa, don't kill the hand or something like that. And then I would probably reflect a little bit and then go talk to our bosses at Poker News and say, but I know that what we're told is to, do not interfere with the action, be a fly on the wall. However, when stuff does happen, go and notify a floor. We're always told. So it's not like, reporters are staying tight-lipped and they see all these egregious things happening and they just keep it to themselves or use it for clicks or whatever it is. We're told to, get the floor involved and talk to the people who can make things right. Of course, in this situation, telling a floor doesn't really help anything because the hand would already be dead. And it is kind of one of those things where you kind of have to speak up instantly. But a couple of things on this point specifically. One, Chad, you mentioned the reporter, Jeff McMillan. He didn't see this in real time. He accurately got all the suits of the hand are involved in the hand. He wrote up the hand accurately. It didn't click that there were, 4 clubs on the board and this guy made a flush. And so a lot of this conversation, it's just really theoretical and it's a good conversation to have. I think we should talk about what are the responsibilities of reporters, but I think it's just gotten kind of blown out of proportion to where this isn't actually what happened. And it's not like Jeff did anything malicious. And actually, Ari Engel pointed this out, but we should be thanking the media in this situation. The only reason we know about it is because they had video of it, because we have screenshots of the hand history, and we can start deciphering and seeing like, hey, this wasn't right. So too much demonizing of the media when like actually the whole reason that this has become a conversation and we became aware that he busted unfairly was because reporters who are there doing their job, and for all the complaints we get about, oh, you get the suits wrong, oh, the action's always wrong, Jeff had it completely right, and that's kind of what determined this all. So props to Jeff, honestly.
Yeah, I did mention a reporter, but I did not name him like you did. You just threw Jeff under the bus there, Connor. No, Jeff's a good reporter.
I'm trying to give him props, not throw him under the bus. But if we need to censor that, we can say it was Liam Gannon.
Liam, well, how could you make that mistake?
It is in my, I've been live reporting for a long time. Since 2010 was my first year with Poker News. And it has generally been be a fly on the wall, but there have been instances throughout the years where I've said something to the floor, mainly. There's been one or two instances where I may have spoken up during the game, and like they're the most egregious of situations. And I do think this situation that happened three-handed was an egregious mistake. And if a reporter did see it in real time, that might be one of those rare instances to maybe speak up if a floorman is not nearby, and there wasn't. And let's face it, a floorman should have been there. It's a final table of a major tournament. A table should not be left alone just with the players and the dealer. You should have a floorman there looking things over. I remember once, I think it was during the PCA and down in the Bahamas, and I was at a table writing a hand or capturing a hand, and then it broke. And I was lingering just to watch where some of the named players were getting moved. And for whatever reason, some player, an unknown player to me, I saw him stand up, take his chips, and like put them in his hat, which they're supposed to be visible at all times. I thought it was a little strange. And then I just watched him, and I literally watched the guy walk through the tables to the exit door and then out of the room. Now that's an egregious error, right? In my opinion. So I found the floor and I'm like, hey guy, like I watched him. I didn't take my eyes off him. He just went out there. The floorman went out and the guy went out for an impromptu smoke break.
With his chips in his hat.
With his chips in his hat. And, yeah, I think he got a very stern warning when, he could have easily been disqualified. And some people probably think he should have, but I believe he had a very stern warning and, we'll probably never do that again. So my point being is like, yeah, we try to remain neutral, a fly on the wall, and we shouldn't say anything. We occasionally do to the floors. And I do think it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because I can guarantee you that if the reporters are guaranteed to speak up, that a reporter is going to speak up and be wrong. And in those instances, the players aren't going to be patient and be like, oh, it happens. At least you were trying to do the right things. Like players can be pricks. If they just got bad beat or they're tilting, they're going to go off on the reporters. And that's not fair either. So I think it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of situation. Yeah. And again, this isn't the reporter's fault. This is the players should have noticed. The dealer should have noticed. There should have been a floor there. The media should be the last resort. And like Connor pointed out, thankfully, Jeff was there with a camera and, got to shine a little bit of a spotlight on this. Speaking of the WSOP circuit, now Maurice Hawkins wins that main event and he ties Ari Engel, right? Was it a tie for 18 rings overall at the time?
Yeah,
Connor,
that's
am I
right.
right on that?
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't last long though, because within a week, Ari wins another one. And kind of, we love Ari on this podcast, right? Like we're always talking about him winning rings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Ari. Good for him. I mean, you knew it wouldn't last long. Somebody was going to catch Maurice sooner or later. So Josh just won another ring too, I think. So he's catching up a little.
So Josh won a horse ring, his first mixed game ring at the Horseshoe in Hammond, which is Chicago. Yeah, Chicago essentially. And then Daniel Lowery actually just won an event down. Yeah, he won one as well. And so you got a tight race. You have both. You have Ari at 19 now with a sole lead. You have Maurice right behind him with 18. And then I believe Josh and Daniel Lowery are both at 17 now. Okay. I don't think the website has properly reflected that yet. But a tight race. Josh has already said, like, look, I'm not ever going to take the lead again. I don't play as much. I don't play the online stuff. And Ari's rings, a lot of them are online. In fact, this one that he just won to take the lead again happened in the WSOP Pennsylvania segregated market, a $500 event that had 86 entries. He won it for $10K. And I get that. We can talk about that a little bit too, right? Like far be it for me to defend Maurice Hawkins on back-to-back podcasts, but say what you will about Maurice, like his rings are coming in very tough
main
and
events,
big fields.
Yeah,
main events.
Same thing with Josh and Dan Lowery. I don't think they play online at all. I don't think any of their rings are from there. So, but Ari's a grinder. Ari plays like all the fields. He plays the small events. He plays the mixed games. I feel like a funny thing that somebody told me one time is like during the WSOP, like Ari had busted some huge 10K tournament, and they saw him over in the $400 like horse tournament, like the nightly horse tournament, something like that. And they're like, hey, who loves it more? You know what I mean? So he grinds, he plays because he loves it.
Yeah, love to see it. It'll be a tight race, and I'm sure Maurice isn't done, and Ari's going to go. I would like to see them, like we've talked about with bracelets. Let's do some online rings. Let's do some on live rings, and vice versa for the bracelets. I'd be curious to know, like, who is the all-time online ring winner? On all-time online bracelet winner. We don't know that, and those could be some interesting
Corey
stats
Padgett
too,
just won a ring at that Hammond stop too, and he's got quite a few. I think most of his are from online too. I'm not sure how many live ones he has.
Yeah, I think he's at 11 now, maybe 12.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's rapidly rising as well. All right, before we get into some other stories, we need to thank our sponsor, and fittingly, the WSOP is what we're talking about, and our sponsor is the WSOP free-to-play app. Connor, I can talk to you a little bit about it because I know you've been on there with me. We did a little challenge months ago, the Daily Blitz head-to-head, had a little fun with that. And, one quick thing before we show the video, like, what's your favorite thing about the WSOP free-to-play app?
I really like that that little like side game that we played where you have to pick the best hand and get points, because I think it's a good trainer. And again, we were just talking about reading boards and telling when there's a flush or when there's a straight, and it puts all sorts of scenarios where, there's like a counterfeited 2-pair or stuff like that. And so I think it's actually really helpful. I like that tool. Yeah,
that's actually a good callback, because you're right. Like, you got to quickly identify what the winning hand is on a given board. So it is good practice. Check out this video from our sponsor, the WSOP free-to-play app. All right, we are back to talk some tournament winners, one being Chad Eveslage, who defeated Texas Mike Monchek, in heads-up play during the first ever 100K Super High Roller Bowl Mixed Games. This was a fun final table. I watched it. Daniel Negreanu was there, ended up busting in 4th place. Benny Glaser in 5th. Yuri Zivleski in 3rd. And then Monchek, who had the chip lead on day 1 and 2, ultimately fell one spot short. Chad Eveslage taking it down for $1.2 million. I don't know if you got to watch any of this, if you watched the mixed games, but I know you're a big Texas Mike fan.
I love Texas Mike. Yeah, I didn't see much of the mixed game. I was at Resorts World and they actually had it on in the background, so I did kind of see that they were heads up. But I mean, leave it to Chad to show up and just crush it. I haven't really heard much from him this year, but here he is. He's got to win something huge every year.
Yeah, he came for me kind of from behind, because I was doing the recaps from this event, and his name was never among the chip leaders. So he was just grinding, and then boom, came on strong when it mattered. And Connor, the first ever 100K Super High Roller Bowl, got 29 runners. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. For the first one ever,
I don't really know either. It seemed low, but I would say it's actually high, given that it's a 100K mixed game thing. Yeah. Because you just think, especially maybe a game like PLO or Texas Hold'em, you see those fields getting big because there's probably a lot of shot taking. In a mixed game, though, that's got to be a bad place to shot take, just because you look at the field you're going against and it's just all elite players. And so I think that it's a pretty good number. It's the highest buy-in that, you're going to see from a mixed game. So it's good to see. And yeah, Chad Eveslage winning that was really cool. I remember a couple of years ago when he won 2 bracelets at the WSOP within the first 2 weeks. I was covering the second one, and everyone at the table was just kind of ribbing him and joking that he's the greatest poker player in the world right now. You had people like John Hennigan saying that. So it's cool to see, he's still really excelling. And that was a mixed game that we were covering. I think it was a dealer's choice event. And so it's no surprise to see him crushing in these formats.
All right, there have been some other big winners over at the Triton Poker Jeju stop. One, Bryn Kenney took down a tournament. He is poker's all-time money leader with $75 million in career earnings now. Ended up taking down the event number 10 over there for $839,000. And Bryn Kenney, look, love, hate. We've reported on him in Poker News. I have myself, but you can't deny he's a hell of a poker player. Connor, what did you make of Bryn taking down another Triton title? I think he's the most profitable player in Triton poker history.
It's absolutely crazy because I remember a couple years ago, there was always back and forth between him and Justin Bonomo. I think I might have covered a WSOP Paradise event where Bonomo surpassed Bryn Kenney or maybe came within a couple 100,000. And then Bryn Kenney has just completely closed the gap. I think he's more than 10 million ahead of Bonomo or something like that. And what's interesting is both of them grind pretty hard. I mean, maybe Bryn plays those Tritons more, but Bonomo plays a ton of stuff too. So it's not like one of them is taking time off. And so, but like you said, he's a controversial figure who we've covered before. So I don't know how many people are going to be rooting for him, but like you said, there's no denying that he's a hell of a player. While we're on the subject of Triton, I also wanted to say Wolfgang Poker ended up making, he had a fourth place finish for a 600K score. And I think Ethan Yao had a big score over there too. So kind of crazy to see those young content creator guys, taking on the top high rollers. And the main reason I wanted to bring it up is because I actually played in a cash game with Wolfgang last year. And so it's just kind of funny that he went from that to winning 600K. So shout out to Wolfgang for sure.
Well, and on the topic of Triton too, I've been watching some of the Triton streams and it's sort of annoying because they're in Korea and they start they're live, right? So they start at 9 p.m. And I tried to make it as far as I could, but I just have to say, shout out to Ali and Kevin Rabichaw because the commentary was just great. It feels like Ali has a little bit a list of these one-liners set up and he's going down the list saying all of them. He seems, and he's just so even keel and he'll make a funny joke and he doesn't have the inflection of it being a joke. And then Kevin Rabachaw's new. Am I saying that right? Okay. It doesn't matter. We're notorious for that. So he's new and I think it's just great. It's great commentary, great at hand analysis. And there'll be so many pauses, because the players play so slow, but they fill those pauses really well, talking about the hands, talking about other things, making funny comments, So, props to them. It was a really entertaining thing to watch for sure.
Yeah, and their main event over there was a $100,000 buy-in tournament.
That was crazy.
285 runners in a 100K tournament.
Biggest 100K of all time, right?
Yeah, I mean, 28.5 million in the prize pool. First place paid 5.5 million. The WSOP main event winner got 10 million. So you're halfway there in this tournament. So that's just incredible. It ended up being won by China's Huang Wenji, and he beat Daniel Cates, Jungle Man, Jungle Man still got 3.5 million. Kyna, he's a good friend of yours from back in your Game of Gold days.
Yes. Yeah, we're besties. Me and Jungle Man, we keep in touch real hard. No, I mean, I think it was great because he just showed up and that's the only tournament he played and he gets second place. And I saw a tweet he put out too where he was like, people keep saying, sorry about getting second place, but I play one tournament and I win $3 million. There's no sorry there. He's a character.
He certainly is. The Triton Jeju series is wrapping up. There's one event still playing out as we record this. We'll have a full recap on PokerNews.com. Let's talk again. We started the giveaway last week. We're only going to run it for 1 week, but then there was some delay in getting out our social media, so we're going to extend it, talking about our giveaway for Tilted Compass. Can you remind the listeners what Tilted Compass is all about and how they could possibly win?
Yeah, so Tilted Compass is now affiliated with the MSPT. They're responsible for making their MSPT gear. I should have wore the hoodie again, but they make hoodies and more importantly, they make backpacks. They're actually a backpack company and they cater to gamblers too. These backpacks are made for a gambler to carry around. They have little tracking devices. They have little USBs in them. And what they do too is they will, if you trade in an old backpack, they'll give you $20 credit towards a new backpack and they refurbish the old backpacks and then they donate them to charity. So I think it's really a nice way to give back. But you can go onto their website, tilted-compass, right, .com. And if you use code PokerNews, you'll get 25% off. And they have given us a backpack and a custom hoodie to give away to one of you. So follow them on Twitter and join their mailing list and then comment backpack somewhere on one of these videos and you'll be entered to win one. So thanks, Tilted Compass.
We will select a winner in next week's episode. You mentioned the MSPT. I want to give a quick shout out to Keith Heine out of Missouri. Good friend of mine. He just achieved MSPT Hall of Fame status, became just the 17th player in history to do it. I was actually there and his very first cash was a win at the MSPT Meskwaki back in 2016. I was working for the MSPT at the time, and here he is 9 years later achieving Hall of Fame status on the tour, which is great. Kyna, I think I heard a rumor you're not too far off yourself, right? You just need a couple more main event cashes.
I wouldn't say it's a couple. I think it's more like 7. But yeah, we're working on it, chip a few off each year. Maybe I'll get there, just in line with Keith. I think my first cash was I might have actually been 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. But yeah, so I'll get there too in 9 years.
All right. I mentioned at the top of the episode, real quick update on Tom Goldstein. He's the Supreme Court attorney who's in a lot of hot water with the IRS. We've covered this on the podcast before. Got arrested. He played in the Hustler Casino Live $1 Million cash game last year. He was the masked mystery man known only as Thomas at the time. But Connor, you've been covering this story from the beginning. What can you tell our fans about the latest in the Tom Goldstein saga?
The government filed a new motion where they basically presented other evidence of why Tom Goldstein is a flight risk, and they were trying to justify his bail conditions that require his electronic devices to be monitored. And so as evidence of that, they said, look, even while this guy was being investigated, he continued to spend millions of dollars gambling and make millions of dollars in gambling income in the years like 2022 to 2023, and he allegedly did not report that as taxable income. And so there's all sorts of stuff that came out. The biggest interesting anecdote that I found was apparently there's one player who between 2022 and 2024 sent Tom Goldstein $51 million that Goldstein won from him gambling. Now, we don't know for sure if that's poker because they just say that these are gambling winnings, and in previous places in the court documents, they do reference poker specifically. So we can't speculate. What we can say is
we can speculate.
Well, what we can say is that he's not accused of any other gambling in the indictment other than poker. There's not tales of him, going sports and spending betting, it in the pits or sports betting. It's all poker.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many, one-on-one situations where you're playing against a single player. This was probably poker. And so these are honestly ridiculous numbers. I think the total were, the guy lost like over 60 million and then he won like 13 million. So the net result was Goldstein was up like $51 million. And this is all just so interesting because, again, we didn't know what was going on. The indictment really focused on the years like 2016 to 2020. We didn't know if he was really playing in these high-stakes games. Of course, he did play in that $1 Million game as the anonymous player. One interesting note on that is Doug Polk has done a lot of videos on this Tom Goldstein things, and he kind of implied that Doug thinks that the reason he wasn't allowed to play in more than one day on the game is because he was kind of frozen out and people didn't want another pro in the game. And he suspects that it was Tom Goldstein who was kind of the one who didn't want Doug in the game. So that's some interesting speculation there and just ties into the $1 Million game. But basically, the Tom Goldstein stuff just keeps getting more interesting. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges, and he is fighting this tooth and nail. And he's also, a genius lawyer, one of the most prominent lawyers in the country. If there was anybody who'd be able to fight these charges well, it would be him. But again, the government just has a crazy case against him.
Yeah, it looks really damning. It looks bad.
They're calling more than 80 witnesses. There's tens of thousands of documents. It does not look good, but it's definitely interesting and a fun one to cover at Poker News, and we'll see how it all pans out.
Yeah, it's super fun to keep up with. I mean, fun in a entertaining.
Fun's not the right word. Yeah. I said fun as well.
Tax fraud, so fun.
But from a high stakes standpoint, it's very interesting. Yeah. It's pretty rare that we get glimpses into these multi-million-dollar private games, and so it's fascinating.
Yeah, I agree.
It gave me an opportunity to look up the Bitcoin price because Bitcoin price is often indicative of how the World Series of Poker is going to be. It's down to 77,000 as we're recording this. It was up over 100 not long ago, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes.
We got the new Poker Vaults, fresh and new just for you, not Negreanu.
Now, last week we debuted a new segment called New Vlogs on the Block, in which we are going to profile different vlogs from those throughout the poker community. And the latest is an interesting one because one of our editors is Adam Piken, who has been behind the scenes for years in the poker world. He's probably done a lot of your favorite videos that you've seen. And he, along with some others, have recently released Check Raise Revolution, which is a poker album. You remember like when Jeremy Osmus did his song, which was a take on Hey There, Delilah. Slow Poker's done some stuff. Greg goes all in. Well, Adam put together a little clip that highlights all of these. Check it out.
Jacks for the king.
I rivered you, buddy.
Just an offsuit 10. What the fuck? Fucking mockery of poker. Fuck, fuck, fuck it. Fuck, fuck, fuck it. Fuck, fuck, fuck it. Offsuit fucking 10.
If your opponent bets a dollar bill into a pot of board, it'll cost you one to call just to win a little more. When you risk a bet to take that 5, you're getting 5 to 1. Here comes the math, so stick with me, I'll show you how it's done. Oh, I be flipping for my tourney life. Flop, turn, and river on the way. And I sure do hope that these deuces hold, or I'm leaving tomorrow without pay. Oh, give me good cards, please, like angelic queens. Oh, give me good cards, please, like the holy pocket kings, holy pocket kings. 'Cause if aces or kings are dealt out, I'll probably get pocket jacks. The board always comes 9 high, and I stick in my stack. There will be no turn, no river, and no back door. Just another reason to hate you forevermore. 925,600 pennies. 925 grand from value so thin. 925,600 pennies. How do you measure a win? In gut shots, in suck outs, in checking your big blind option.
All right, we are back to talk one more story, one that I am particularly excited about because it was my favorite poker event growing up as a fanboy, and that is the Bay 101 Shooting Star. It hasn't been on the WPT World Poker Tour schedule since 2017. It hasn't been held since 2020, right? It was at San Jose, Bay 101 in San Jose. They held it in 2020, but this was the event that was interrupted by the COVID pandemic. They were 10-handed, and they had to do a chop. Kristen Bicknell or Kristen Foxen now ended up getting second place. Craig Varnell took the title, but it hasn't been around since then. And not only is it back, but it's back as part of the WPT. I love this event because of the bounty format where you knock the player out, they sign a t-shirt with their picture on it and send it over to you. I've always just thought it was great. There's a deck of cards each year that features all the different bounties. Are you as excited as I am about this? Do you even know about the Bay 101 Shooting Star? Kyna, let's start with you.
I've never heard of it. No, new to me, but I'll keep an eye out for it. When is it?
It's going to take place in October, so it's still a ways away. But I mean, Connor, I'm guessing. I mean, this was in the WPT days, like season 2. It debuted on season 2 of the WPT. That's when Phil Gordon, who hasn't been seen in the poker world for more than a decade, really. But he might soon be. More on that in just a second. He defeated Chris Moneymaker. So this was like less than a year after Moneymaker won the main event. He finished runner-up in the Bay 101 Shooting Star, almost won a WPT title as well. Connor, have you heard of the Bay 101, or is this all news to you as well?
I have not. This is all news to me. When it shut down, as you're saying, that's kind of around the time that I really started getting into poker. But, you mentioned that back. I probably saw clips of this when I was younger. Maybe not this one, but other WPT events. But I'm not familiar with this one, no.
Yeah, some winners. It's very this tournament, the Bay 101 Shooting Star, dates back to 1997. It didn't become a part of the WPT until 2004, so it was running independently. Huck Seed has won it before, Carlos Mortensen, and then Phil Galfond was the first WPT Bay 101 Shooting Star winner. Ted Forrest took it down in 2007 for 1.1 million. That's his largest career score. Ted Forrest, who people are advocating, including Johnny World Hennigan, to be in the Poker Hall of Fame. Brandon Cantu, Steve Brecker, Moon Kim, James Carroll, Taylor Poor, Stefan Schilhabel, and the last WPT Bay 101 Shooting Star winner is Sam Panzica, which I'm pretty sure you know Sam, kind of, right? Like he was a circuit guy for a while.
I would have to see his face. I probably do know him though. I don't know.
I don't think he gets to play the I think he got banned from the WSOP years ago, so he hasn't been able to play for a long time. There's a movement, free Sam, get Sam back at the WSOP, but it hasn't happened quite yet. So, anyways, I hope he's at the Bay 101 Shooting Star. He can be a bounty. I already maybe sent Matt Savage a text saying, "Hey, if you need some bounties, the Poker News Podcast crew, Connor Richards, host of the Life Outside Poker Podcast, we're ready to get there." So
some easy targets for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we wrap things up, I did just tease it. So I actually rewatched the Bay 101 Shooting Star on DVD, the WPT Season 2, and I'm like, you know what? I want to get in touch with Phil Gordon if I can. And he hasn't been seen for a while. So I got, worked the network. I got his number. I sent him a text saying, "Hey, would you be willing to do an interview?" And to my surprise, he not only said yes, but he's pretty excited about it. I haven't done it yet, but the plan is to do it. He mentioned to me that his sons, who are in their teens, have started playing poker, but they never really have seen him in the poker spotlight. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get him. And if he does it via Zoom, we'll feature some of that on the Poker News Podcast. So a little teaser there. Might get this exclusive with Phil Gordon.
Cool.
Which should be fun.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is going to do it for this episode of the Poker News Podcast. Connor, thank you for filling in for Mike Holtz, who should be back next week. Like, subscribe, review, tell your friends. We will be back next week with more news. And until then, we'll keep a seat open for you.